Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And what a weekend it was in the pro wrestling world this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend, if you're in the States. We had a crazy 3-show run of Night of Champions, Battleground, and Double or Nothing back to back to back. A lot of great wrestling, even better storytelling, and the fans just win again. You know, I've been saying this for a while, as we will get into the intros as we normally do here on the show. But man, the fans are so lucky these days, you know, me being one of them, of course, but the amount of action we saw this weekend, the pure storytelling aspects in certain matches that we got to see, a war in one of the matches just stole the whole weekend almost, I think. But it's not from the show that you would have thought I would wager before the weekend started. But let's get into things. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow this podcast, juicysteen.podbean.com. Find it on iTunes, rate and review. 5 stars would be fantastic. My Instagram, as always, Juicy Wrestling Closet. That's where you can tap in to see some of my vintage wrestling t-shirts. Among those are my WCW pay-per-view shirts, which I am steadily collecting and haven't bought a new one in a long time because I have almost every single pay-per-view event from 90 to 2001 when WCW closed. I believe I'm only missing 10 shirts from 90 to 2001. So follow that journey there. Finish the story, if you will. And we will be talking about Cody as well, of course. I say this most weeks when I don't think that there's a lot on the table. But this will probably be a shorter episode this week. We're just going to review pretty much what happened on Double or Nothing and Night of Champions, what have you, a little bit of the Battleground stuff. And then we will transition both of those shows into Dynamite and Raw, of course. But let's just get things started with what happened last night on Dynamite before we tap into Double or Nothing. We were speculative. We heard rumors. We pretty much knew, and after last week, when they announced that AEW Collision, the new show for TNT, happening June 17th, now we are only 15 days away from that, beginning at the United Center. When they announced that the United Center was going to be the home of the first edition of this new show, it was even more 90, 95, 98% of who would be showing up at this show. And of course, on Dynamite this week, we got an announcement regarding the debut show. CM Punk is going to be a featured star on this show. We are finally back at it again. The Summer of Punk 4, A Quest for Peace. Because we had the first Summer of Punk in Ring of Honor. We had the second Summer of Punk in WWE. The third Summer of Punk happened in the return of AEW, or return to CM Punk into professional wrestling in AEW in 2021. And now we get it once again, the summer of 2023. We get another CM Punk revitalization, return, reunion. We'll see what happens. I have some faith. I really do. You know, seeing the end of, I believe it was a Dynamite where the Elite were discussing how grown men can overcome petty differences and, squash things. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if that was the exact verbiage or vernacular that they had all been using, but the sentiment was the same. And I think that they were discussing that in regards to the storylines Hangman coming back into the fold. However, I do think that it was a little bit of a head nod towards the CM Punk All Out discussion and interaction, Brawl Out, as they've so rightly called it. I'm not sure if they will ever, they meaning AEW, or CM Punk, or the Elite, all those involved. I'm not sure any of those individuals will ever reveal the details of that particular incident. Definitely not on air. Maybe on air. We'll see what CM Punk says with an open mic, I'm sure, on the 17th. But I would assume some sort of NDA and across the board until potentially, I don't know, any of these guys can go into another realm or another company, or they're retired, or, any of those types of things. Once those things kind of fall into place, I would say it's more apt that we might hear what really happened that night on, a podcast. Maybe one day on the Juice Box we'll have CM Punk discussing what happened at Brawl Out, but, be that as it may, I doubt he's heard of this program. But I am excited. I am excited for Saturday Night Wrestling. I'm excited for live Saturday Night Wrestling. I'm excited to have CM Punk back, love him or hate him. And I proved this to a few people on Twitter, I believe a week ago, that CM Punk is definitely a draw. I do believe that 4 or 5 shows he was promoted in or worked at the top of those cards, he was drawing huge gates, heavy numbers. And, to be fair, I would say AEW's ratings, not that they need a boost, but they would like to, I'm sure, have a little bit of a higher rating for their secondary shows. Dynamite's their flagship show, and it always is doing what it does, anywhere from 800,000 to 1 million viewers each week. With Rampage, though, my God, if it's 10 p.m. or if it's 12 a.m. or if it's after an NBA game or it's before an NHL game or it's at 6 p.m. or it's at 3 p.m., it's at random times. There's never any consistency, and that, I do believe, is what has hurt Rampage over the course of its run so far as an AEW programming piece. And the Saturday night at 8 o'clock time slot, I'm hoping helps sustain a rating. Now, again, this is kind of uncharted waters for the rating crew because, Mondays traditionally, now Wednesdays traditionally for 4 years, Fridays for quite a long time. We've had Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday throughout time. Now Wednesday is definitively for AEW Dynamite, but Tuesdays and Thursdays we had SmackDowns, we had WCW Thunder at a point. So we've tackled most days with programming, but Saturday nights have been kind of out of that realm because outside of WCW Saturday Night that we have, that used to be a show that took WCW's main guys and what have you, and kind of drove that ship until Monday Nitro debuted in '95. Saturday Night had been that stalwart show for WCW, and I'm not sure that the ratings would ever have indicated a juggernaut by any means, but that was over 25, 30 years ago when Saturday Night was at its prominence, but the ratings weren't as heavily discussed or argued or opinioned, as they are now, where it's every quarter hour is being heavily analyzed by every person across the board, including, me to an extent. I don't care much for the quarter hours unless that quarter hour really took over, or if a segment above all other ones, dominated in a rating, what have you. I really just care about the week-to-week, year-to-date history of the rating on a previous year on the same date, or what the previous week did, or if it's a go-home show, or if it's the show after a pay-per-view. Those little intricacies I'm more or less invested in when it comes to ratings these days. And in that same realm, as we talked about ratings with Dynamite specifically this past 2 months or so, Dynamite's had a tough time with the NHL running its Stanley Cup playoffs. The NBA playoffs at a fever pitch with a lot of exciting games, a lot of exciting matchups. But now those are over, and another outsider that has been dominating the ratings, honestly, for the better half of the last month or two, has been the reality show on Bravo, Vanderpump Rules, which is a show, not unlike any other reality show that's on TV, but just recently there was a real life incident in regards to some of the people on that show, and due to that, the ratings have been skyrocketing. The last 3 weeks have been topped by the previous weeks have been topped by the next week, the last month. So, at the beginning of the month, like, they had a rating, and then by the next week, that rating got higher. Then it got topped again and again. And 2 weeks ago was the finale for this season of Vanderpump Rules. The next week, we had a reunion show, and there was a reunion show on Wednesday this past week, and there's going to be another one next week, and that'll be the close of that show's 10th season. But it has been a thorn in the side of AEW Dynamite's ratings for having these types of ratings wars, if you will, against these other shows. But a show like Vanderpump Rules, which is taking some part of the demo, a lot of people would say, oh, well, it's for the females. It's more of a women demographic based type deal. That's their audience, what have you. But, the ratings have just been unbelievable. And it has been, like I said, a real thorn in the side of AEW Dynamite's ratings. So it'll be nice to see the playoffs and this reality show kind of be out of the way once we are in the thick of the CM Punk era, as we approach Forbidden Door. Hopefully they can build on that and get some solid ratings as they get through the summer, transition into the fall, when more stuff will obviously take place on TV. And it'll be interesting to see as they lead into the next All Out and, of course, All In. A lot of programming, a lot of questions, hopefully some answers as we move forward. But yeah, CM Punk is back. I for one am excited. I have faith that they could put these things behind them and that there is money on the table. I hope. I've seen the rumors. We've discussed it, I think, before, that Samoa Joe could potentially be the first challenger to CM Punk for his return. And those guys had wars in Ring of Honor. So that would behoove of AEW to promote the Joe versus Punk saga that happened in Ring of Honor. Now that they have that library and that footage, they can go back to that. They can call back to that. They can show those matches and footage, highlights, to really push this, probably to an outsider fan, this random pairing of CM Punk and Samoa Joe, when in reality it was probably one of the higher marked feuds of the independent scene at the time. It's tough to put into words because in 06, 07, Samoa Joe was fully fledged in TNA. CM Punk was in WWE, and these those matches had been for the most part an afterthought because those new destinations for those guys didn't really highlight their previous work to that extent. But I do think that it benefits AEW that they have the Ring of Honor library and they can tap into that previous feud and utilize it to an extent as they promote this new, potentially, feud with these two guys going forward, if that does happen. But yeah, Collision, CM Punk, firing on all cylinders, hopefully. We can only hope that things like that will move forward everything. And while we're talking about CM Punk, while we're talking about AEW, let's get into Double or Nothing. We're going to do the Double or Nothing card, kind of go through everything that happened, and anything that transitioned into Dynamite we will discuss as well. The first match of the show was the Blackjack Battle Royal, which I thoroughly enjoyed. For a Battle Royal, I thought it was pretty damn good, pretty entertaining, especially the last 3 to 5 guys that were involved. And of course, Orange Cassidy was the victor here, retaining his international championship, which he has defended that thing and had it for a long time now, and has really, really cemented himself as a credible champion in AEW. And you talk pillars, and we'll talk the 4-way pillars match later on, but Orange Cassidy, I would say, is a pillar that is there, but I think he's a hidden pillar because, people could say he's a joke. He is a great wrestler. His character is the joke, and I think he's put it all together to where he's must-see TV almost every time he's on the TV. So, solid stuff there. We had the Adam Cole, Chris Jericho unsanctioned match. Sabu went through a table within the first minute of this thing, and by the second minute of this thing, he was out of the whole picture as the special guest enforcer, but didn't really matter. Adam Cole wins by ref stoppage. Gotta tell you, didn't care for this match as much as I thought I would. The hype was there. The guys in the match were there, but the execution of the match I thought lacked. However, I did enjoy the mixed tag match we got on Dynamite with Jericho and Saraya versus Adam Cole and Britt. That main evented the Dynamite show this past Wednesday, and I enjoyed that quite more than the Double or Nothing unsanctioned match for whatever reasons, but I did enjoy it more. So take it or leave that opinion there, but kind of a nothing match for a match I really was hyping and looking forward to. But again, maybe they kind of saved themselves with the, not rematch, but the mixed tag on Dynamite. FTR defeated the team of Jarrett and Lethal, which, man, we got Aubrey Edwards taking a guitar shot. Karen Jarrett taking a fall. Fun match. Mark Briscoe had to make the pin, and he did. FTR gets the win. And let's talk about Dynamite with what happened there. FTR has new challengers, and they are Jay White and Juice Robinson. So it's interesting that we'll get this probably at Forbidden Door, Bullet Club Gold versus FTR. I don't think the titles would switch hands as we do an early prediction. Which, by the way, big shout out and a big thank you once again to Josh Eisenberg, who put forth so much into the last weekend. We did back-to-back prediction shows for Double or Nothing and Night of Champions. Such a fun time talking with him. I thought we hit a lot of great points. I correctly predicted the camouflage referee attire for Mark Briscoe, which was pretty cool. But we just have this little, Eisenberg and I, we were he was a stalwart for Chairshot, right? So he and LeBar were really, and Brian Goulash were the three that really took Chairshot to, another level that I was aware of. I didn't become too aware of the show until much later, and then of course I became a part of the show, and the rest was history, so to say. But Josh, I do believe on the show, I'm trying to find out the exact prediction because I am actually unfamiliar. Let's see here. I know that he predicted something. I have to go through it. I have to find this thing because it's driving me nuts. Because I wanted to give him credit for something he predicted on this show. But Eisenberg, shout out to him. Sorry for really derailing that little AEW segment by trying to figure out what he correctly predicted. But I know that he predicted something for sure correct during during our predictions, and I thought, we'll get to it. It was the Night of Champions one. We'll get to it. I knew it the whole time. Long story long. Get that out of the way. FTR and Bullet Club Gold seem to be the next match going forward at Forbidden Door. Only a couple weeks left until that show, so we're going to have to get some solid match announcements here going forward. Continue with Double or Nothing. This was, up until the Four Pillars match, the best match of the show. Christian Cage, Wardlow, ladder match. Wardlow did the Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania 16 swanton off the top of a ladder through the tables in the entranceway, the same way Jeff did. Wardlow is not Jeff Hardy size, if you are aware. He's billed as 6'3", 277. Wardlow is an incredibly talented guy. I am hyped to see what he's got going forward. Killed it in that match. I thought he had a great performance. Arn Anderson looked like he bit someone's thumb off. He also looked like he had some pie on his face. I don't know what the hell was going on with this match in the Arn Anderson regard, but it was very entertaining. Wardlow gets the win in 17 minutes. I think that, and Eisenberg made a great call last week during our Double or Nothing prediction show, that with the TBS title being the women's version of the TNT, you could have that on Dynamite every single week. And, again, the AEW champion can float around. But the TNT title can now be a really big point of contention for the new Collision show, considering it will be on TNT. So hopefully we'll see more of Wardlow on TNT going forward with the TNT title on Collision. I would love for him to kind of take that as his own, not his own show, because obviously the CM Punk is clearly the biggest star for that show. But I think there's room. I really do think there's room for Wardlow to take charge as a defending champion there. And I'm hyped to see the contenders that they'll go forth with. Potentially Luchasaurus. I'd like to see Powerhouse Hobbs in there again, of course. But we'll see. We will definitely see. Tony Storm, they did an angle here where everybody beat up on Jamie Hayter kind of before the match. We knew Jamie Hayter going into this thing was hurt, unfortunately. So Tony Storm gets the victory here as the new AEW Women's Champion. So we'll see what Tony has going forward. Now we will get to what I thought was an even more interesting women's championship development in the form of the TBS title. So we will get to that in a moment as well. I don't know what's really next for Tony Storm. I'm not sure if it's going to be an infighting thing yet with Ruby or Saraya. I'd like to see the newest challenger. Maybe it's someone we haven't heard of. Maybe it's someone we'll see at Forbidden Door. I don't know. I think it's too early to really tell. Maybe we'll get Sky Blue in there. I'd like to see Sky Blue get a shot. There's a lot of women. There's a lot of talented women on the roster. Again, we'll get to that later on as we do a little bit of the Double or Nothing Dynamite thing. House of Black, with an open house rules match, defeated the Acclaimed. I thought the Acclaimed had probably the best entrance of all everybody. A lot of great lines by Max Caster, of course. They did not win this match, but they had a great showing. And they did say, they announced they made it true, a true statement. They made it a point to say that Billy Gunn deserves one more shot, one more run as a, quote, champion before it's all said and done. I would like to see that as well. He won King of the Ring 99. Didn't really go well for him, but he was a multi-time tag champion in WWE, of course, as the Smoking Guns, as the New Age Outlaws. He was Intercontinental Champion. He was a tag champion with Chuck, I believe, as well. Hall of Famer, hardcore champ, Intercontinental champ. So the fact that, you know, he might go with one more solid run here as a champion, I think that would be a great idea. I don't know what title, though. You got the TNT, you got the International, the World. I mean, the trios. There's a lot of different avenues they could go down for a title for Billy Gunn. I just am unsure as to what it would be without necessarily taking time away from a younger star that might deserve it. But the trios title would be something. I'd like to see him in a match with Orange Cassidy and win the International, and then potentially get a couple of defenses in before losing it. I would like that a lot. So we'll see what happens with the Acclaimed, but I have some high hopes to see Billy Gunn with some championship gold once again. TBS title, it finally happened, and we'll get to the Night of Champions stuff as well. It happened twice this weekend. Jade Cargill loses the TBS title. Now, she did defeat Taya Valkyrie, 8 minutes, good match, good little match. Jade still steadily improving, I think. Defeats Taya Valkyrie. After the match, Chris Statlander returns after a very long injury hiatus. 48 seconds, challenges Jade, wins the match, wins the TBS title. You have a new TBS champion, Chris Statlander. She successfully defended the title against Nyla Rose on Dynamite. So the challengers are already starting to come through. And Chris Statlander is someone who I really think deserves a championship to defend and call her own and put forth these solid matches that I know she's capable of. She was trained in Creative Pro Wrestling by Brian Myers, formerly Kurt Hawkins, who, you know, Creative Pro has delved out a lot of talent, some of the Dark Order, Max Caster, MJF, among others. So Creative Pro doing a lot for the newer talent in AEW for sure. And it's nice to see Chris Statlander get this big win, get the title, and move forward with her AEW career now on a better trajectory. Speaking of trajectory and pillars and new career guys and AEW only guys and all that talk, MJF defeated Sammy, Darby, and Jack Perry. 4 pillars match, world title on the line. This match had it all, man. This was the best match of the night for Double or Nothing, just edging out Wardlow and Christian. But all 4 of these guys had interesting little entrances, although Jack Perry really had nothing. Jack Perry came out and was nothing. However, we'll get to a little bit after this, but his entrance was nothing. MJF had like I don't know if it was an orchestra or whatever it was, but he had a live entrance with a lot of some like Vegas inspired women coming out for his entrance. Sammy Guevara came out with his spouse, and it was very, very cool that Ty Mello and him revealed in the little cards, the cards that Sammy Guevara used to do all the time. He did it again. They put out the little cue cards, and it was a cue card saying that they are expecting a child. So, hell yeah. Great way to announce that, to be honest. And, you know, Sammy Guevara, he's not without controversy, of course, but a lot of people aren't perfect. And as a matter of fact, nobody is. So he has done a lot in the last few years to kind of rebound and become a stronger star in AEW. And I think him and Darby, outside of MJF, of course, and unfortunately Jack Perry, I don't think has it in him yet, but I think he's on the cusp of something. I think those guys have a lot going forward for them, but especially Sammy. He's got a lot of charisma. He's always reminded me of a young Eddie Guerrero, and I think the sky is the limit for him. So it's exciting that he'll be now a father, and he had a great performance in this match. And then Darby came out in an Elvis suit, but half the Elvis suit was painted as a skeleton, which was badass. So, man, hell of a match. All four of them hit the move that their mentors had. So Darby hit a Scorpion Death Drop. Jack Perry hit the Unprettier. Sammy Guevara hit the Codebreaker, and MJF hit the Crossroads, which was a perfect utilization of all four of them and their moves. And to cap it off with the Cody move, when Cody is out doing WWE stuff now, is the best possible heel thing for MJF to do. MJF gets the win with a with that arm bar takeover or whatever. Man, I love this. Great match. 27 minutes of work. Great stuff. So much props to those four guys. And then the Anarchy in the Arena match, which a lot of good moments. I was a little bit just like, okay. Until the end when we did get some storyline stuff. And this is the same thing with Night of Champions and how that show ended. This show ends with Anarchy in the Arena, and you get a super kick with a firework, an explosive super kick to Jon Moxley, which was awesome. You got thumbtacks on a bare foot. You get a lot of crazy stuff, but Takeshita turns on the Elite, and now Takeshita, who looked like I don't know how else to say it, he looked like a Bond villain with his little mask covering, and him and Don Callis got a ton of heat on Dynamite cutting their promo, and I'm looking for, Takeshita kind of came out of nowhere as this young, up-and-coming guy, and he's as babyface as you could get. I mean, he looks like a good-looking young wrestler, like as general as you can make him, but his in-ring is not general, and now he is this bad guy with Don Callis at the helm. And I will note that Omega had been reported that he is not there. He was not, in fact, at Dynamite. He was not in Canada either, so potentially he was in Japan. I wonder what Kenny would be doing in Japan, but maybe he's recruiting somebody. Maybe he's recruiting Kota Ibushi. I don't know what Forbidden Door has. I don't know if we're going to get a Blood and Guts 5-on-5. I don't know if we're going to get Ibushi and Omega versus Takeshita and somebody. But we got a lot of interesting stuff going into this Forbidden Door that's not just New Japan versus AEW. We're going to get a storyline-driven show for the most part, I think. We got the FTR thing with Bullet Club Gold. We got this stuff with Kenny and Don Callis and Takeshita. But I really like what they're doing with it. So, I love what they said here. They said, Kenny, you destroyed my old family, so I'm going to create a new one. And that new one's going to cut the Elite out of all Elite wrestling. So I was thrilled about that, to be quite honest with you, that match. So, all in all, I thought this was a solid show. I do think it started off well with the Battle Royal and the Wardlow match. I think a lot of stuff left some to be desired. However, I think the last two matches delivered for sure. And now with Dynamite in the rear view, we can go forth with one more Dynamite and then another Dynamite, and we'll get Collision on the 17th. So exciting times for AEW, because then after that, the next week is Forbidden Door in Toronto. That should be a hell of a crowd as well. Good times, exciting times for AEW, because I'm not sure if there is a June pay-per-view for WWE. But they did have one this past weekend, and it was Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. This was a great show. Before we get into that, I do want to just mention, if you haven't watched NXT Battleground from Lowell, Massachusetts, it was a show that went directly against Double or Nothing. The first time a major show had competition like that since Clash of the Champions 6, Raging Cajun, and WrestleMania 5 in 1989. Long time since that happened, but WWE NXT, they will happily go against AEW because they have nothing to lose. They sold out, whatever tickets for the building in Lowell, and they were going to have whatever, however many people watching it. It was on Peacock. There was people at Double or Nothing watching Battleground on their phone. The best of both worlds, in my opinion. I don't think it's either or. I think you could watch both and have a great time. So, like I've been saying, being a wrestling fan at this juncture really is beneficial to your overall well-being, because you get WWE, NXT, AEW across the board all the time. We might get another dual pay-per-view weekend around Labor Day. Hell, we get All In the week before. We'll get All Out the following weekend, and I'm assuming we'll get a pay-per-view for WWE, a PLE rather, that same weekend as well. So, without going too much further into Battleground, I do think that the match to see on that show is Dijak versus Dragunov, a war. And that's the only thing I can really say that would really, because nothing else that I will try to articulate the description of this match will be good enough to describe what really happened with those two guys. Hell of a match. Go back and watch Donovan Dijak and Ilya Dragunov from NXT Battleground. But the other WWE-led show, which happened Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m., man, love those Saturday afternoon shows. Of course, that happened because it was nighttime, and Saudi Arabia, it was technically Night of Champions there. We have a new World Heavyweight Champion, and unfortunately, it was not AJ Styles. It was a good match, though. I don't think that they slowed down for any amount of time during that 20 minutes. Seth freaking Rollins wins the WWE World Heavyweight title. The first ever, World Heavyweight Champion. Now, I do think that the lineage dates back to the 2002 World title, so it's all confusing, I gotta be honest. But AJ Styles, of course, came out on Raw to congratulate him and, said he earned it. And look, the draft means nothing. The brand split means nothing right now. The worst possible time for them to do it was now, considering they have all these other moving pieces, a tournament, and all these things happening. AJ and Seth won the main event of Raw as a tag team. I don't know if we'll ever get AJ in a world title capacity again. Maybe if Seth is still champion, we will, but I don't know. There's no clear-cut new guy to challenge Seth. But July 1st seems to be the next show. I don't believe there's gonna be a June pay-per-view, considering July 1st is the date for Money in the Bank in London, which, again, if you're a wrestling fan, you get Forbidden Door in Toronto, New Japan and AEW. The next week, you get Money in the Bank in London. Like, oh, man. It's unbelievable. I'm very excited. It's, as a local sports radio talk show host says, incrinculant. An incrinculant weekend. Incrinculant means incredible and excellent. It is a word that someone created. And I'm just trying to help the grassroots movement to get it into the Oxford English Dictionary. So we'll see. But Seth Rollins, new champ. Great match. Don't know who his challengers going forward are going to be, but I'm sure it won't be Brock, because he still has another match, I'm sure, with Cody. Trish versus Becky Lynch. Now, this was an okay match, but more story. Zoe Stark comes from under the ring, helps out Trish to win this match, and that's how we move forward with Raw. With Trish now seemingly we're going to have some more interactions with Trish and Becky going forward. Again, with Money in the Bank, I'm not sure if some of these storylines, like if Trish and Becky are still in a storyline by July 1st, are they both going to be inserted into Money in the Bank? Or are we going to see Zoe versus Becky? Are we going to see Trish again? Maybe we'll get Zoe and Trish versus Becky and Lita at Mania? Or not at Mania, at SummerSlam? Whoa. God. Trish botches, I botch, talking about Trish. What the hell's going on? But, yeah, that was what it was. Trish and Becky. Gunther versus Mustafa Ali. This is a sprint, man. This is an 8-minute match. Ali looked like he could beat Gunther. That's all I want. You know, I'm not expecting Gunther to lose until he defeats the Honky Tonk Man's reign as Intercontinental Champion, which I do believe is under 100 days, and he will be surpassing that reign. I do think he will do that because WWE wants to have the record books have Gunther as that guy and not Honky Tonk Man. Probably better off that way, too. But Gunther made Ali look great. Ali is great, so he really didn't need too much of a boost, but great match nevertheless. So Gunther retains the IC title. And then, like I said, it happened again. Jade Cargill lost after holding the TBS title for so long. And Bianca Belair loses. Jane Cena loses the Raw Women's title to Asuka by pinfall. Shocking to say the least. But hey, now we can get some more interesting Raw Women's title dynamics. We can get Bianca Belair to potentially chase going forward. Maybe, dare I say, already a favorite to win Money in the Bank. We'll see. But, yeah, we'll see. Speaking of women's wrestlers, I know this is off topic a little bit, but we did mention Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello announcing that they were going to have a child in the near future. Alexa Bliss, congratulations to her, and Ryan Cabrera, formerly of The Hills fame, which is another reality show that I had been invested in more recent years. Those two are having a child as well, so you will not be seeing Alexa Bliss, I don't think, for a little bit. Potentially a Royal Rumble, we'll see. But yeah, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Asuka, and congrats to Bianca Belair, honestly, for holding this title for so long, having a lot of great matches, overcoming a lot of odds, and being that perennial ambassador for WWE all the while. I think Asuka defeating her is a great choice, though. Asuka finally has some prominence back into her character, I think, after being somewhat of a joke the last few years. So we'll see where they go with that. Rhea Ripley defeated Natalya in 1:10, which is exactly what needed to happen. I'm thrilled that that happened. Next in line for Rhea, I don't know. Brock defeats Cody. Am I surprised? No. But I'm also, Cody got so much offense in for a guy that had his arm broken. He hit some crossroads. He did some good stuff. He got suplexed to all hell, though. That was, typical Lesnar work there. But Lesnar gets the win in under 10. I'm assuming, here's the same thing with Trish and Becky. If Brock and Cody are still in this realm of feuding, are they going to have a match at Money in the Bank? Are they going to have a match separately at SummerSlam? Are they going to do a third match as a Hell in a Cell at Money in the Bank? Are we going to have a Money in the Bank match and a Hell in a Cell match in the same show? Could Brock and Cody be in a Money in the Bank match? A lot of different avenues, as I like to say. But we'll see where they decide to put on their turn signal for. But Brock gets the win. Now they're 1-1. There's gonna be a rubber match. There always is, unless it's Cena versus The Rock, which thrice in a lifetime. I don't know. But no, Brock needed to win that, and I think that I think this is a necessary thing to do. Get Brock that win back, and Now at any time we'll see a potential third match. I'm sure do it Hell in a Cell. I would prefer a fight pit because it kind of leans into Brock in his way of wrestling and what he likes to do. But I think it would be a great way to have Cody win, where Cody's won Money in the Bank, or he's won Hell in a Cell matches. Lesnar's been in Hell in a Cell matches and has won. There's story there, but I would love to see Lesnar in a fight pit thinking that it's his type of match and Cody steal one to finally overcome those odds and then eventually defeat Roman. Or not. Roman might never lose, but he did. He did, and we will close the show out with this. The end. Again, I tweeted this out. So we had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defeat the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, to retain the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. I have said this, and I tweeted this out, that the string of these PLEs that Triple H has been, his regime has been a part of. And Clash of the Castle was the first one that Triple H had, although it was kind of inherited. Even then, they had the Dom heel turn, right? They had a lot of good stuff. They had the big Drew moment with the fans at his the hometown feel for him. A lot of great stuff at Clash, but Survivor Series 22 with the War Games, and the story with KO and Sammy, and Rumble 23 with the Sami Zayn chair shot, mirroring the Shield breakup with one of the louder pops you'll ever hear. And again, this was after the match, right? Storylines after the match, something that we have not gotten in WWE programming in a very long time. Elimination Chamber 23, where you had KO save Sammy. Sammy gets the incredible, incrinculant ovation from Montreal, and it's an unbelievable moment and match. He loses, but KO saves him, and it's a great story. We get to Mania, where night one ends with KO and Sammy, and the Usos, and KO and Sammy win the tag titles. What a feel-good moment, all for it to be taken away the next night, because we all thought Cody was going to be a shoo-in to win, and he lost. And then now, Night of Champions. Oh, wait, Backlash as well. I forgot about Backlash, where you had the San Juan Street fight, but the ending to that show, which, again, it was Cody and Brock, but the storyline based stuff with Solo and the Usos and everything that was happening. Really, the storylines were so good in those last 4 to 5 shows that, I'm waiting for a show to not have that. Now, when the Bloodline's not a thing anymore, that's where I would start looking for, okay, are they going to be able to do storyline-based things outside of the Bloodline that are this successful and well done? Maybe not. We'll see. But for Night of Champions, this was about as good as I've seen. And we finally got to the dissension. We're not quite at the full-on Bloodline disbanding. Roman has to lose the title for that, I believe. But we got the end of this match where Sammy and KO, everybody's pretty much down. The referee was down. The Usos come out after being told not to. They save Roman from being powerbombed through the announce table. They take out Sami Zayn, but they go to do it again and they accidentally hit Solo, which Reigns got pissed, obviously. Face washes both Jimmy and Jay, but Jimmy this whole time, because Jay had that soft spot with Sammy, and I still think he does, by the way. Which the Usos are looking so much better. The Usos, for being a team with their face painted, right? And for having... They weren't like a joke, but my God, they were doing like the tribal entrances, and I get the lineage and again, the bloodline. But for them to come up through all that and all the stuff that they've gone through to be in this high profile, high leverage situation and storyline, and to be so important and integral to every single second of this bloodline storyline, they, I applaud them. And I think they're going to come out of this so unbelievably on top that I think that they're going to really help this division going forward outside of the bloodline, being a part of the bloodline. So Jimmy saw enough. Jimmy super kicks Roman Reigns. Roman goes to his knees, which I tweeted this out as well. If the end of the Hell in a Cell in 2020, where Roman was just getting started with his title reign, pun intended, and they did the I Quit Hell in a Cell match with Jimmy and Jay, there's a photo of Roman with the title, standing above all, and Jimmy and Jay are collapsed in the ring. The same type of scenario where Roman is collapsed in the ring and Jimmy and Jay, now they're not standing tall, but they're kind of arguing like, well, how could you do this? How could you do this? Jimmy hits a second super kick on Roman. Paul Heyman is stunned. Everybody is shocked. And then that was that. Roman rolls to the outside. Owens hit a stunner. Zayn hit the haluva kick on Solo. The referee makes an appearance, a new referee. They get the 3. Oh, man. Roman's on the outside, crumbled, and Sammy, with both titles, screaming at him like, you'll never get these, you'll never take these. They're ours. What an image after seeing Cody with the image of Roman celebrating in the background at the end of Mania. Now we get Roman with a little bit of a tougher way to end a pay-per-view for him. And this, of course, this pay-per-view, or this PLE rather, happening then. Now, this podcast is going to air now, but I'm not sure what they do on SmackDown, because they are celebrating Roman Reigns' 1,000 days as champion. Don't think the Usos are going to be out for that. So it's going to be Paul and Solo and Roman, which will be sad to say the least. But it'll be great storytelling, and I just wonder. I really do think we'll get the quote bloodline civil war at Money in the Bank, potentially at SummerSlam, but I think at Money in the Bank in London we'll get the Usos versus Roman and Solo, which would be awesome. And then hopefully we get Roman and Cody at SummerSlam. I don't know if that's too easy to book, but it seems like it's right there for the taking. And we all know that AEW, for the most part, if it's obvious, do it. It'll probably work. WWE, for the most part, has been leaning that way. Probably since Clash of the Castle, they've been leaning like, this is an obvious way to go about things, even when they didn't. Even when they had Sammy lose in Montreal, but like they had the moment there. It was never going to be his title. They had the moment with Drew. He was never going to win. They get these moments regardless of the reactions of the outcome, which is good, because the outcomes should be irrelevant, in the grand scheme. It should be the moments that you remember, not the wins or the losses. I'm looking at you, AEW. So, to me, having these crazy ends to these pay-per-views is what I'm remembering more than, Roman lost. Sure, it matters in the grand scheme of things, but it's like, I remember the super kicks during the end of the match. I remember the chair shot. I remember, the War Games finish. Those are what I remember. Those are what I'm going to take going forward. And those are what's going to build these stories going forward so that we can get to that big climax, the big conclusion, hopefully at SummerSlam. We'll see what happens. SummerSlam 2020 is kind of where this all started-ish, or the week after, rather. So it will be 3 years of Roman as champion here. Maybe this is time. We've been saying this, I've been saying this, and nothing has changed, but hell of an end to Night of Champions. I was thrilled with that. Like I said, Raw was a hodgepodge of pretty much nothing, but no pay-per-views happening in June. They're doing the Money in the Bank qualifiers, which we now get Ricochet, who's qualified, and we get Shinsuke Nakamura qualified as well. We'll see who fills in. I do believe Montez Ford and LA Knight are in a qualifier, which is annoying because LA Knight and Montez Ford should both be in the match. However, if one of those guys loses, let's say it's Montez, I would almost wager there could be a last chance match between whoever didn't win. Maybe that's how you get that last guy in there. We'll see. But too early to tell. Also, I know some people might not care. Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, I forgot about this as well. They are the new women's tag team champions because the titles had to be relinquished. A lot of little moving pieces. So I am just, I was thrilled with the weekend. I really was. Looking forward to more. Like I said, the end of this month and into July, we got a lot of crazy stuff. In the middle of this month, we're getting CM Punk coming back. That by then it'll be Money in the Bank and Forbidden Door. The next month we'll get SummerSlam. By the end of that month, we'll get All In, All Out, probably another show. Whew! Tough times to be a wrestling fan and not have the time to watch some of this stuff. If you can find the time, try to make the time work, man. Hopefully we'll be getting a Triple Threat Theater one of these weeks. Predictions, as always, with Josh Eisenberg seems to be a great little thing that we've been doing. So hopefully we'll be doing that again coming up for Forbidden Door, coming up for Money in the Bank. So those things will be happening, I'm sure. But yeah, this has been the Juice Box this week. A lot of great stuff. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Follow this show on Podbean, juicysteen.podbean.com, or on iTunes. Rate and review this 5 stars. That'd be fantastic. You can also find this show on Google Podcasts. In addition, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Anywhere you could find me. Let's chat wrestling. Let's see what we can discuss. You like my opinions, you don't like my opinions. They're still my opinions, and you have yours as well. But as for me, I'm Juice Springsteen. This has been the Juice Box, another great weekend of pro wrestling, and I will see you guys next week for another edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.